project. Thank you. The Messenger project is a project that is funded by the UK British Council, and it's about women in STEM and cultural diversity. Can you actually hear me well in the over there, or do I need to change the microphone?
I can certainly hear you.
Yeah, you can hear me. Okay, that's good. All right, and before I explain more about the project, so I'm Alexandra Christa. I'm the PI of this project. I'm also professor of computer science here in Durham, and I've been interested in gender and diversity for many years because of my background with also Tina Swan, and also more recently with the projects we're running here at Durham with TechUp. So TechUp is been bringing, to begin with, 100 women to training computer science. So this was something that was very dear to my heart, and I thought that this is a really important thing to continue with. And we have been continuing also with TechUp, so we're running now 2 boot camps. They're almost finished. Also with IOC funding them, and also separately we've been running a Santander project with TechUp. It's not just for women now, it's sort of more open, but and we have also Sue joining us, who will be able to talk much more about TechUp. But basically it's more open, but we do have give priority to people coming from underserved communities. So that's a very brief introduction to me. So how shall we do it? Shall we do it one online, one offline, or something to us? Go next. Shakira, you've been helping us a lot, so maybe you want to introduce yourself next.
Hello, I'm Shakira. I'm an administrator for the ATA at Durham, and also I work with Alexandra, and also one of the beneficiaries of TechUp as well. So I finished as a business analyst, so I'm a proof that it works. I mean, yeah. So lovely to be here and to meet everyone.
Thank you for all of your work with organizing this. We have managed without you. Who wants to go next? Shall we have Sue from online? Just introducing yourself. We're just going through the tableau.
Hi everybody. Thanks very much, Alexandra. So hi, I'm Sue Black, Professor of Computer Science and Technology Evangelist at Durham Uni. Have led on the TechUp program that Alexandra was just talking about when I joined with Alexandra, and done various things to try to improve the percentage of women academic staff and women students in the Department of Computer Science, and various other things. I'll be talking about the sort of things that we've done in my presentation in a bit. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Sue. We'll give you a presentation soon afterwards and hear more about what we're doing. So Elaine, you want to go next?
Federal University of Amazonas in Brazil.
Sorry to interrupt, but you've got
I can't hear
in the room now. It was fine earlier, it's got quieter now.
Yeah. Your voice, you have to speak up.
Hi, my name is Elaine from Brazil. But I think, am I too far?
No.
The range on the owl, either move the owl a little closer in, it's about a good 3 or 4 meters will be fine.
So maybe we should bring the power closer here.
If you unplug, because I know the HDMI cable won't take it far, if you unplug it and feed it through the middle of the TV.
Yeah, I mean, she can. Let me get it.
Just. Hi, my name is Elaine. I'm a professor at the Federal University of Amazonas, and I'm really glad to be here. Thank you.
Okay, so we move on to online. So shall we have Rachel? Also be one of our first speakers today, introducing herself.
Hi, I'm Rachel Archibald. I'm the Head of Equality, Diversity and Inclusion at Durham University. Lovely to meet you all today. It keeps going quiet, so I'm straining to hear, so forgive me if I miss anything, but I'll be speaking shortly and answering any questions you might have.
Okay, I mean, we can hear you perfectly, so it's probably only on our side that we go quiet, so do protest if you don't hear us. Okay, shall we have Isabella next?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Isabella Gasparini.
Maybe you should also closer to the owl.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Isabella Gasparini. I'm from Santa Catarina State University, and I'm really glad to see all of you here. Thank you very much.
Back to online. So who hasn't said anything yet? Anna Bloch, are you there?
Yeah, hi, hello. I'm a former associate to the Santa Catarina State University. Right now, I'm not neither in UK or Brazil, but it's very nice to be here as I am a postdoc right now, and I'm researching on diversity in STEM areas. So this is very nice opportunity, and I'm very glad to be here. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you for joining us, Anna. Okay, so we're back indoors.
Yes.
Maybe also closer to the owl, just in case. Of course. Or speak up.
Hello, my name is Fabienne. I'm a second year student at Durham University, studying computer science and physics. Actually, I'm a natural science student, but I just received an email about this and I thought it was very interesting, so I wanted to join. So yeah, it's nice to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Happy to have you here. Excellent. So we're moving back online. So Natalia, Natalia Locatelli, are you there? Can you hear us, Natalia? No? Oh, we get a hello. Natalia, hello, Natalia. We are very well, thank you. You have no microphone, I understand from this.
She's my master's student.
Okay, you can or cannot, because it's not very clear. Okay,
Yeah.
You want to introduce her? or not?
Yes. Natalia is our master's student of computer science. She's studying computer systems and
Okay, and good morning, by the way, to all the people from Brazil, and thank you so much for joining us so very, very early for you. I do realize it's ultra early. Okay, so we have more people online that haven't yet spoken, so shall we have Craig? Craig, can you hear us?
I can, sorry. Hello, my name is Craig Stewart. I'm an assistant professor here at Durham University in Computer Science, and I'm a member, along with Sue, of the EDI committee here. So thank you for inviting me to the meeting.
Thank you for being here. Okay, and then we have Isabella Menegazzo Costa. Just join us. Sorry, you just joined us, so you probably don't know, but we're doing Tour de Table now. So if you can introduce yourself.
Isa, can you explain who you are? Just your name and what you do. She's an undergraduate student. Electrical engineer. And she worked with me in our project.
Oh, I see. Yes. Yeah, I should say we have matching T-shirts here from the Brazilian project, which says
Catarinas.
Catarinas.
Yeah, is that the name of our states? But the name of our state in our project to match all women from our states. Our work.
And it says you are no better than anyone else. And what else?
No one is better than you. That is a phrase. That's a phrase from Katherine Johnson that we love so much from the NASA.
Ah, okay. Okay. All right. I think Natalia has some problems with connecting. So twice. Okay. We have also Laila. Yes. Hi, Laila. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi, hello. My name is Leila, and I am a PhD student at Durham University under Prof. Alexandra supervision. And that's it.
Thank you very much for being here. Okay, and we have Muteb as an introduce yourself. Hi, Muteb.
Yes, hi.
Hi, you can introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is Mutib. I'm a PhD student under Alexandra supervision. Nice to meet you all.
Okay, thanks. And we
Thank you.
have also, thank you. We have also Bella Van Dressen. Am I pronouncing it correctly? Not sure. Bella, can you introduce yourself? You know Bella Van Dressen now? Okay. Can you hear us? Oh, she's connecting to audio now, so that's the problem. Hello, can you speak now, Bella? Okay, you can also just type. If you hear us, just type, and you can say a few words, typing basically. Okay, I don't know if she hears us, unfortunately. Okay, anybody else that I missed by any chance? Eva, sorry, yes, for some reason she doesn't appear in mine. Very strange. Hello, Eva.
Oh, that's
No, I don't think she's here. No. No. So we have. Okay, so I think that's all. Actually, your email or something or your name so that we can then also tell you what's happening at the project. Write it down. Use old-fashioned writing down techniques. Okay, so welcome everybody, and thank you again for joining us. For some of you, really early in the morning to participate in this project. I realize now we have over my 10 allocated minutes, so I'll try to be very brief. So basically, Messenger has a name Messenger because we're trying to send a message out there. Athena's one has been happening for quite a while in the UK. Well, we think of it as quite a while, maybe not long enough. It's about bringing more women in STEM and looking at what it's called the leaking pipeline at every step of the way, from the transition from school children to university, from university to postgraduate taught, from postgraduate taught to postgraduate research, every single step, and then later on as a career assistant professor, associate professor, full professor, there's less and less women. And this has been seen as a problem throughout. And the question was what to do about it. And the first step, I mean, I think that the speakers here will speak more about it, but the first step is about gathering the data and understanding the data and making some sense of the data. And once you have the data, then you can process it and try to figure out a plan of action of how to improve it. And this is why Athena Swan created this bronze, silver, gold awards to transition from the gathering data stage, which is giving you something along the lines of bronze status, to silver, where you're starting to really implement things, and gold, which are really the ones that spread the word out there within the UK, but also outside. We're hoping to go a little bit of spreading the word outside of the UK, and we're really happy to be one of the 9 projects that were funded by the British Council, and it's a privilege to have that, really. And we hope to do a good job about it, and we are recording this meeting, not just because we're very curious, but we want to share the word with others, and the ones that are here, of course, but with others as well, and hopefully that will help. So I think that considering the time, I will give the word already now to our first speaker. And our first speaker is Rachel Archbold. She has introduced herself earlier. She's the head of EDI in Durham. So EDI stands, for those of you who don't know, for Equality, Diversity, and Inclusion. So which we all hope that is one of the main things in any kind of endeavor in our university and universities in general in the UK, and institutions of research both in science and elsewhere. Okay, so Rachel's talk is called Athena Swan, A Journey in Application and Practice. And we were hoping to have her face to face, but we're really, really thankful that although she had some personal difficulties, she managed to come to us online. So Rachel, I'll hand you the stage is yours, and you can take it from here. I'll stop sharing, and you can share your screen.
Many thanks. Thank you, Alexandra, and thank you all for the pleasure of letting me join you to speak today. I'm going to just share my PowerPoint presentation. I think I've just got everything on the screen, but if you just bear with me, I'll just bring it up and see if I can share, and then just go to my slideshow.
Well, whilst you're doing this, I mean, we really want this to be a dialogue. So hopefully that's okay with you as well. I will have some question and answers later, and if you have questions, you can put them also in the chat, for instance, if that makes more sense to you, and we'll try to monitor it or ask questions later. Are you okay to be asked questions during your presentation, Rachel, or you prefer it?
Well, I'll pause at certain parts of the journey. My intention was to spend the first 15 minutes just going through my slides. They're quite pragmatic and high level, and then opening up to a Q&A and a discussion piece where I hope we can explore some of the issues that I've shared in more detail. Because I'm sharing my screen, I can't see if hands are in the air, etc. at the moment, so it might have to be an interjection. If I do try and pause, if that's okay, then we can see if anybody's got any questions en route, and that would be really helpful. If you can't have the opportunity to ask me the questions today, I'm around next week. If anybody wants to have a chat with me, please feel free to. I will be in the office, I hope, for some of that time, so maybe sit down over a cup of coffee. So I'm just going to start with just giving you a pragmatic overview. I know many of you will be familiar with Athena Swan, which is an evolving charter, and it was established in 2005 to recognise good practice to support academic women in STEM. I think what is key is that over the time the sector has asked that the charter to become more inclusive, and it's seen it evolve from supporting only academic women to include in STEM, to include all disciplines and professional staff, which I think is key. So it's becoming more inclusive within itself. In 2015, the charter also included a move towards transgender staff, and also looked at the underrepresentation of men. And more recently, the charter has developed to be more inclusive of non-binary, gender fluid, and wider intersectionality, including students. And I think what we need to be clear about is that the charter is an evolving process itself. It asks us to assess and address gender inequality and look at the challenges in the wider sense, and the progression and representation of women remains central to the Athena Swan Charter, but we need to consider what that means through that multifaceted lens as we move forward. And today I just want to touch on that, as well as talking about the work that we're doing on the Athena Swan journey. So, so key to this then is to develop a culture of respect and inclusivity in our community, which focuses on gendered inequalities. But we also want to track that work to progress that at institutional or local level. And we look at issues of representation, progression, career development, and factors of the working environment. Now, as part of that, I think from a practitioner's experience, the Charter is most effective as a tool to ensure that practice and policies present no disadvantage to any member of staff or student, and it does target cultural change. And I think we need to remember that this is what is key. It gives us a framework on which to work, a framework to assess and analyse evidence, and it informs the process and methodologies to support cultural and behaviour change, not just around gender inequality, but equality and diversity in all its forms. So as Alexandra said, what is key is that the Charter framework is based on a cycle evaluating gender equality in a particular context, and developing actions to address the issues identified. So it includes a self-assessment process through collecting and analysing evidence, using that analysis to identify priority issues and reasons for gender inequality, and to ask us to propose those solutions. And then it asks us to develop an action plan which will address these issues over the coming 5 years. It's a continuing cycle of evaluation and progress, and you need to kind of undertake that journey to identify where things are working well and what needs to be adjusted. Remember, it's an evolving duty, it's a changing environment, and we have to respond to that accordingly. And I'll touch on that a little bit further. So to support us to take this work forward, you'll see on the slide that we've got a resources and data hub, a community of practice, and updates and information. Now, we created these ironically through as a result of the pandemic, which I think has been forward thinking and evolving practice and engagement. And communities of practice at DU have enabled us to kind of share resources, develop toolkits, provide updates and information, and offered a platform for information exchange in a more timely way. And I think as we've moved forward, it's showcased where we can use that good practice and that community engagement, both at a local level, a national level, and an international level, to inform our work and practices, to adopt what we can do from other areas where we know where work is really affecting change in practice. So where are we? So from an institutional point of view, we are working towards a silver award. We currently hold a bronze award. We've held this since 2018. We've also been working with our departments, of which we have 24 across the organisation, and 22 of those departments currently hold an award. When I arrived 5 years ago, we had about 7 awards, so we've really had a step change over the last 5 years, and I really think it's a fantastic achievement, because if you look at that in practice, each of those departments has now got a framework and an action plan to progress gender equality across the institution, and we're trying to align that with the institutional approach overall. We have that process that's set out on the timeline below, and what is clear is a successful submission relies on an effective self-assessment process and an impactful gender equality action plan. Now, we have been reviewing our gender action plan, and we're currently in that midterm process review. We've looked at our actions, and we've looked at those that we've completed that are no longer relevant, and we've made a decision to remove those actions. We've refreshed those that are ongoing, and we've redesigned new actions. And I think what my key message here is, we should never be afraid to stop, pause, and rethink where we are, what's changed, and how we can shape that as we move forward. And if things aren't working, if we've put actions in place that aren't working, we should own that. And the evidence base helps us to show that and say, actually, people will tell us through survey or focus groups or other ways if they think that's working or if that's having an impact. And if they say, no, it's not, then we just take that on board, and we need to rethink and reevaluate, and then look to what we can do to deliver the impact that we want at an institutional and a local level. So we're particularly working on evidence-based recognition of key issues and demonstrating progress against these. We're looking at the action plan to address those and evidence of the success, and it's there where we'll draw out some of that in the wider presentation. And these elements are reflected in the new format that I'm sure many of you will be familiar with. They've changed through the transformation process, where we're using the baseline data and the rationale. We're looking at this through our gender equality survey, looking at it through our recruitment so we can measure progress, and we're looking at those changes to evidence those outcomes. And we're doing that in a way that says this is our success criteria and this is our journey and how to get there. So I just wanted to share with you some of the findings from our Athena Swan midterm process survey, which was conducted in 2021 in the middle of the pandemic. So you can see from the diagram These are the focus areas for action that have been identified. Now, many of these areas are already being addressed through the actions and equality building work that's happening across the university. However, it's key and important to note that these areas still continue to be areas of perceived inequality from many, many staff. So the reality is, and what we're learning from this, is that people don't always understand how that reach is happening, what's happening in practice, or understand what's already been undertaken and how we get there. For instance, we introduced a new promotions process 3-4 years ago, where everyone now has to annually submit their CV and an application for progression. So that's considered. We introduced exemptions from that process, perhaps because of maternity, etc. But we've now had this promotion process, so there's no opt-out unless there's a rationale to do that, which has seen an increase of progression and promotion of women across the board in all areas, through science, through arts and humanities, through social sciences and health. And I think it's those adaptations and policies in practice, but we're still not reaching others who do not feel that that process is still fair or transparent. And it's looking at the work that we can do underneath that will support us to move that forward. So I wanted just then to give you an insight on some of the actions that we are undertaking. So on our recruitment figures in 2017, 37% of our appointments in this organisation were women. In 2020, 50.9% of applications were women. So we've seen a significant increase. So we are evidencing what we are doing, and it's showing us that we are actually on the right track. That doesn't mean that we've got it right completely, but there are a number of areas that we've looked at through the sequence of evidence, action and impact to see this iterative process. And so we know that through the introduction of gender balance shortlist, gender balance panels, unconscious bias and EDI training, and the requirement of panelists to undertake that training, that there is movement. We still need to review language. We're looking at more broader reach with access networks and specialist publications. And we're capturing our data at long listing and shortlisting stages. And we're also trying to highlight the benefits that come with working at Durham, which includes on-site nurseries and discounted holiday clubs for children and extended leave periods to support caring responsibilities. So all of those changes are coming into effect, and we can see a gradual step change and an impact because we're seeing a higher increase in proportion of women within our organisation. One of the things that we introduced at Durham, which was unique, is that we asked all recruiting departments to look at a gender balance list of their academic disciplines, to look at who was coming up through that pipeline, who we could reach out to, who was there, and how we could attract that talent, and look to support our shortlisting process by doing a proportionate representative against those lists that we held. So a really fantastic opportunity there to see what we can do and how we can move it forward. But there are still challenges. And I think we've got to improve our job descriptions, and we need to adapt how we reach out to our professional staff, how we frame our job descriptions and the language that we use. It doesn't always reach everyone, or kind of people still don't see themselves as a Durham employee or student. So we need to look at that clarity, context, that order of relevance and those key benefits, and keep asking ourselves and our staff what we need to do to continue that engagement. And in particular, in this new environment where digital technology is more important than ever, how do we use engaging digital content that improves how we sell our roles and other related benefits? And how does that set us apart? So there is still some way to go. And I think it's by getting the voice of those who are looking or reviewing or working or studying that we can start to do that more effectively. So we're in this process of midterm review. I wanted to draw your attention to the fact that we continue to test and evaluate our actions in response to environmental factors. And this has to require us to respond and adapt our approach in times of change. The pandemic in many ways has been transformational and opened up new ways of working. It's introduced hybrid working, online learning and meetings, and that's opened up engagement and development opportunities. We have seen increased participation and research collaboration from women at both a local and an international level. We've seen that with students, we've seen that with early career researchers in many areas. But we also need to be positioned to identify the longer term gendered impacts of COVID. And we need that data in areas such as research engagement and outputs, and to look at how we can inform our future actions and approach to address those identified impacts which haven't yet become apparent. We've already introduced new actions to help to respond to this, with additional support available to women, Black ethnic minority colleagues, to encourage engagement in research grant applications, to develop mentoring relationships and establish both internally and cross-institutionally support and engagement with industry and business. And I think that's been very successful in part. And computer science is one of those areas where I think the work that's been led out of computer science has been exceptional and the practice. We've also done cross-institutional reciprocal mentoring programs, shared characteristic mentoring programs. We've brought early career researchers together from underrepresented communities of interest and identity to work together in a regional basis to look at where they can build their skills, their talents and their collaborations, and look at different role models that can support them on their journey, so we don't lose people through the pipeline, so we continue to attract, retain and grow our talent. I just wanted to look very quickly at that intersectional approach, which I think is more important than ever. The new principles of the transformed Athena Swan process asks us to be more active in our commitment in relation to intersectional inequalities and structural inequalities. And we're doing this in part through our work to create the Race Equality Charter and the action plan that comes through there, which is an intersectional approach. And this is linked very much through the application of data to the action plan and evidence-based approach, again, targeted, streamlined, and looking at those initiatives and projects that are linked through our gender equality action plan and other strategic drivers. There have been 5 thematic areas identified to support that, and I've just put a sample of actions just on the page to let you have an insight into the area where we can adapt and build our work at a local level, and then look at what we can do to tailorize and think about that through reflection and inflection, how we can drive innovation and progress. I think key to this is the embedding of ownership, accountability, and how we then make this part of your day-to-day job rather than a side thing which you're trying to add on as we move forward. But you can see through that there are similarities in what we're doing, embedding the use of equality data review in departmental practices affecting recruitment process, understanding barriers for minority ethnic PGR, and looking again just at how we can take these actions and think again this holistic way so that it becomes part of our everyday occurrence rather than something that we think of as an afterthought. Sorry, we just go. So I just wanted to, it's going to let me go on to our strengths and weaknesses. So Athena Swan has been a huge positive drive force for engaging university and departments for more than a decade now in Durham, and it's no doubtfully changed. There's no doubt that change would not have occurred if it wasn't for this external driver. So there's been opportunities to learn about the challenges and barriers of early career researchers from underrepresented groups. We know that the progression has actually moved forward, but we know now how we can circumnavigate some of those areas. There's still a lot to go. But I think that what we need to think about when changing our approach and building on this best practice and looking at that impact and that cultural change within the university and beyond is to look at how we can develop and learn from the weaknesses and take those challenges and apply that thinking elsewhere. So there is still a problem with data. We have data spread over many resources or sources, and it's never been created with Athena Swan in mind. So building a coherent source of information across all the protected characteristics for which data is kept, it would be highly desirable, but currently we don't hold that in that form. Currently we have staff data that comes from one set of tools, student admissions is separate to an outcome data, and none of the information is set up to give intersectional analysis between gender and ethnicity, international status, social, economic, disability, etc. Oops. So for me, we're at that process at this time where we're trying to learn how we can build data sets that allow us to have that clear understanding, and how we then provide that to the department level and across, so people have ownership and availability of data when they need it to inform application and approach. I wanted just to talk about the workload distribution and engagement of the process. Too often this process lands with people who are at junior level, who have an extended workload, and we need to be able to ensure that it doesn't rest on one individual's shoulders, that the ownership is across the board, that we get that early career researcher and student engagement, and that we help others to be able to apply this and support them to drive this work forward. We're starting to move that, but too often it does rest on a few shoulders to champion this work and take the mantle forward. Institutional memory, 5 years is a long time for an action plan, and many times we have SATs, or we have people who are head of department, and those positions change and roles turn over. So there's sometimes a lack of institutional memory about what we have done, what we committed to, or there's a lack of continuity when we move forward. So it's key that we take that learning forward and understand how we can bring others involved and take that ownership at localized level, so that people are supported to deliver against these outcomes. The static action plan, I'm just mindful that sometimes we are too slow and we need to keep this current. So there's a few other things I just wanted to very quickly, because I'm conscious of the time, share with you. The wider visibility and engagement through an intersectional lens to illustrate the work of women beyond and within the HE sector is critical. This year we showcased a number of areas. We talked about women of faith. We looked at women doing interesting work and research across disciplines. We looked at people who were carers and how we could work that. And I know a number of you were involved in the conferences and those conversations. And it's really important that we continue to deliver and showcase this work in a positive light. We've also set up a report and support tool, which is an online tool, and this will support us to respond to tackling the cultures and behaviours that exist. And we also need to look at this through the new principles, because it specifically asks us how we will do that. For example, through gender-based violence, bullying and harassment. Over the last year, we've seen a significant increase in reports in certain areas. We adapted our information, and we do have a support page which gives lots of information that sits behind this. And you can tell in the last 12 months where our communities have sought further information and looked at where they could find out more about domestic violence, source links to wider support, ask for counselling support, and it's allowed us to inform interventions at a local and institutional level. So it's us collating that data, using that evidence, and helping us then to respond to staff accordingly to create a culture that's really positive and engaging for all. And my last slide, I've just done one on the EDI fund. When we're looking at promotion, when we're looking at ownership, it's really important that there is a small pot of money that staff and students can bid into to support activities related to the work that they want to do. The EDI fund was set up in 2021. It's a £50,000 pot of money per annum, which allows students and staff to look at what they can do and where they can be supported to take this work forward, so that we can create initiatives and activities from the ground up that really affect that change in practice. Thank you. I'm going to now stop, and I'm just going to come to questions if you have any. I'll stop sharing.
Thank you very much. Applause, part of it face-to-face here, part virtual. We're getting also some virtual applause. So okay, so time for questions. You can do it in various ways online. You can either put your hand up, or you can put or type something in the chat. And here you can just do the same, or talk directly. So I do have some questions, but maybe you want to ask first.
My video and the camera here.
Just your video, because otherwise we'll hear from feedback. But video, yes, you can put your video.
Thank you, Rachel, for great presentation. Thank you, Rachel, for the great presentation. What do you think is the first step for us in institutions in Brazil, universities in Brazil? What do you think is the first step you have to do to try to be more inclusive and to conduct the first steps to change our environment and our cultural issues that we have?
Thank you so much. I think there are many first steps, and you need to adapt it to the circumstances where you're in. But to bring like-minded people together, to develop community hubs where you can share information and ideas, because don't forget those initiatives and those ideas spark from within, and you've already got many of the answers, but having that collaborative voice and that en masse approach really affects change. I know in isolation I can say something and I won't have the power to kind of move those mountains, so to speak. But if I asked Alexandra and Sue to come and stand shoulder to shoulder beside me and share my narrative and adapt my narrative and to speak that narrative in the places and in the conversations they have, I know that that reach grows and grows and grows. So to bring those communities of practice together where you can have those conversations and you can bring like-minded people together, you don't have to agree on everything, but there will be things that you agree on to affect, that you know that you want to affect cultural change. Decide what you want to be different. I think that's always really important. If you asked you at the end of this journey, what would you like to see that's different? You can all agree then what actions might be taken. The Athena Swan does provide a framework, and there are areas of that framework where you can use that evidence base to inform. And then there are many areas where we can bring in and share practice what has worked. And it doesn't mean that if it hasn't worked in our area, that might be because of our circumstances, culture, etc. But doesn't mean that it wouldn't work with you. And I think when we did a hate crime, we looked at hate crime and religious-based hate crime, and we looked at that at a national level. And I worked with 11 partner institutions across the organisation. What we did was we took that shared learning and practice and we adapted that to a local context. And it's been really effective to get reporting higher. So 4 years ago, we had 3 reports on racism. We now have in the hundreds. So it's been enabling by putting those infrastructures in place. It's by providing the right information, collaborative voice, being there to enable people to shape and affect change and hold those conversations. And don't give up at the first hurdle. Can I say this? Durham takes a long time to affect change. Sometimes we have some really good quick wins, but some of those longer journeys, you have to have the staying power, get your running shoes on and your energy drink out, because you are in for the long haul.
Or maybe, wait, so 1 second, should we first move to online? Does anybody online have a question first?
Hi, Rachel. Thank you very much for your talk. I was wondering, how is your job as a head of EDI? Do you have to have a closer relationship with the students and the BAME students and professionals? And also, I would like to know if you have some kind of mentoring program, or what do you think about it? Thank you.
So my head of equality, diversity, inclusion, we have a small team. I'm one of 7, and we have recently appointed a PVC EDI that sits at that very senior table, a recent appointment that came in 3 or 4 months ago. For me, I do have relationships with our stakeholder networks. In fact, I chaired a meeting this morning where we had 7 representative networks around the table. Ironically, I had the conversation about collaboration this morning and about sharing that. Sometimes we are very much on the same page. Sometimes there's a differential of voice, and not every stakeholder would agree because people are there with different perspectives. And sometimes we have to navigate and find a shared commonality. And it's no easy task sometimes. I'm going to hold my hand up. And I would say, people look and they think EDI, and they look to me and they think I have the answers. And I always say, no, don't have all the answers. Ownership works at a local level. So I'm going to, forgive me, Sue and Alexandra, I'm going to use you as examples again. You've got really powerful women who have really impacted and led and paved the way in their areas, and high profile, brilliant women who have got voice and have managed to kind of get this program in, made effective changes across both university sectors and beyond, if I can say that. And it's with their voice, it's with their ideas, with their input that we kind of create a better environment, because they've taken that ownership and they've made it part of their role. It's not a side issue. And I think that we have to work together, and it's no individual area that allows us to do that. So I would say my role is part of a picture, but a small part of a bigger jigsaw, if I can say it like that. And the second part of the question, just remind me, because I've gone off on my journey. Oh, the mentoring. Yes, we do have mentoring. Forgive me this, we have many mentoring. Some of it good, some of it not so good. But we do have localized mentors. We have cross-institutional mentors for shared characteristics, because we set that up in the science community a couple of years ago, because recognizing there are very few people in certain positions and you want to learn. We do mentorships where it's peer mentoring. We have coaching, which I personally have, and I really value a coach. And if you haven't got one, or you haven't got a mentor, you're going to have many mentors in your life. All of them are going to bring something to your journey, and you need to change those. They'll always be friends, but change them up as you go along. But we have for coaching as well, so that you can have that ability for somebody to help you to think about how you would apply your thinking and empower you to think through those issues. So I think a bit of coaching and mentoring for any person who's on that professional journey is essential. We have multiple pathways to mentoring at the university. Not everybody's aware of them, and I think that's the problem. Sometimes you don't know what's out there or how to access it, and it's how we communicate that more effectively.
Right. So last question, anybody from online? Any questions? Your hand up or speak directly. Okay. I mean, maybe some of you don't know, but Rachel was also leading the Athena Swan evaluation process. So I was wondering if you could possibly tell us about how Durham fares against other universities in terms of the process, in terms of specificities or something that are different in one university or the other, or are they all pretty much facing similar things? How do you see this?
I think that Durham is really great at many, many things. And I'm not going to detract from that, but there are things that we're a little bit slow to catch up on. Can I say that? So we sometimes shine a spotlight on research, and our focus has been research led. And sometimes I think we've just started to widen that approach and therefore look at it through a multiple lens and value every contribution that we can make. So now for Progression for Academics, there's equal value for both research and citizenship and participation, which involves that EDI element and that community give back. We've just started to do that. So we're a little bit slower than some of the other universities in progressing that. We're really good at departmental level because we've got that buy-in, and I think that's really key and important. We drive this from this is driven very much from a departmental level, and I think we should be proud of that. Institutional, we're having a new step change. We've had a really massive change to our senior leadership team, that representation balance. When I came, there were very few women in leadership team. Now we've got a 50% split, which is a real positive. So I think there's effective change across the board. Where I see us a little bit lagging is not in our research capacity, not in the caliber and quality of our students, but in that slow to be cultural change. We're a small community, we're a unique community in many ways with our 17 colleges. So it's just about ensuring that we adapt that. And the other thing I think from Athena Swan and gender and culture change is sometimes our infrastructure within Durham, it is beautiful. It's a very small city, and that infrastructure is really, it's not a diverse city, so it doesn't always allow that kind of change of demographic or population. And I think that's a challenge for us, not because people aren't willing to come and work at Durham, but not everybody can move their family to Durham, and there isn't that support around it to enable that change as we would in a larger city. And I think that's what's driven change in other major cities such as Manchester, London, Newcastle.
Thank you so much. I see you have some question online from Anna. So basically, let's see. She's thanking you, and she says, I'm thinking on how such requirements interconnect data collection, training, teaching. Let's see what's another question. If there are any socio-economic, religious, sexuality dimensions currently aiming to be implemented in the future.
Most definitely. I think that Anna's made a really good point, and something that we're trying to connect with. We looking at our data sets at the moment. Sexual orientation we're in there. Socioeconomic within our students in particular, and religious. We do collect religious data. The issue we have is around disclosure, and we're going to do a big piece of work on supporting people to self-disclose. But to do that, we need the systems in place. And I smile when I say we're still evolving with our internet, with our technology at Durham. There are really great pockets, but I think it needs to be shared more widely so we can collate that data. And we've just got a system in place that allows us to do that, where people can self-disclose. So they don't have to do that to another individual. They can go on the system and they can do that. We can anonymize that data, we can review it, and we can use that more in an informed way. But to kind of ask people to share that, they have to have felt their identity, they have to feel safe about doing that. And what we need to do then is to, and I've asked our staff networks today if they will create with me some communications about how we use that data in an informed way, so they can see the change that comes through sharing. Where do we use that? So a really good area is on maternity at the moment. We've just kind of changed our maternity policy. So from entry now, from into the work, you are entitled to get maternity pay. We've extended that. We want to do it for shared and adoption lead. I know this isn't about faith, but it gives you an idea of where we've used data in practice and how we want to see if that data then supports that decision, so we can start to affect real change through a faith lens, through an LGBTQ+ lens. and through all those other lens, where at the moment we've got a really small data set, and we just need to expand that. But to do that, it's a piece of work that needs to be done with colleagues, so that people feel safe that they can share and they know we're going to use that in a non-personal way.
Okay, thank you very much again, Rachel. Let's give her another round of applause. Rachel has said she'll be around for our Brazilian guests to talk with her for maybe the week coming, we're not at the conference and stuff. But thank you so very much, and I'm sure that you can also reply by email if there's anything. If we gather more questions and I send them your way, I think that should also work, I'm sure. So thank you very much. I know we're running out of time, but I think that was important to have the discussion. Hopefully don't go away. I do want to take a picture with all the participants somehow. In my mind, I'm sort of running through scenarios, but I think if we put the camera over there and at some point have everybody on the big screen here, we could probably get a picture. Should we do it now or should we do it later? Are you still being all around? Hopefully, if you're all around, we should be after soon. Are you, Rachel? Are you going to still be around after listening to Sue's talk? Are you still going to be around after Sue's talk to take a picture? Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. So then, without further ado, I welcome to the floor Sue Black, Professor Sue Black, our own technology evangelist in computer science, Durham University, who we are very proud of, who's definitely a pioneer in EDI matters and is helping us shape, hopefully, computer science in such a way that it will become a much more attractive destination for women at all stages of their study or career. So, and she will be talking about Athena's one initiatives that we have put in place in computer science. The floor is yours.
Thanks very much, Alexandra, and hi again, everyone. Right, I'm just going to hopefully share my screen and hopefully start my presentation. Okay, can everyone see that? I'm guessing you can because no one said no. So thanks very much, Alexandra. So I've been at Durham for 3.5 years now, and when I had my first conversations about coming to Durham, they were all about how can we make Durham University or Durham Computer Science the #1 place for women in tech. And so that's a big part of what I've been focused on since I joined Durham. Here's some of our lovely students there. Oh. So I just thought I'd tell you a little bit about me to start with before I talk about what we've done at Durham. So I come from a background where I left school at 16, and well, this is me at my graduation, so I think I'm about 30 here, I think actually. I started my degree when I was 26, so I must have been about 30. And so I did my degree as a mature student with that's my three children there as a single parent. That's my dad and my brother and sister. And me at my graduation ceremony. And so I understand what it's like to not come from a traditional background, I guess, and go into education, go into academia. Yeah, I got my degree when I was about 30, and then quite a few years later, got a PhD. So in fact, when I was in my final year of my degree, my project supervisor said to me, "What do you think about doing a PhD?" And I said, "Oh, I'd love to do a PhD," but I didn't actually know what a PhD was. And had to go to the library afterwards and find out. But once I did find out, I was like, yeah, I really do want to do a PhD. So I did a PhD, and during that time I became a full-time academic. So I did a few years full-time on my PhD and then became part-time and finished it off part-time. And sort of moving into the women in tech space. So when I was a PhD student, I hadn't really thought about gender, I hadn't really thought about being a woman in tech. I just thought I was kind of in computer science or in software engineering. And it wasn't until I went to a conference in Brussels in 1998 when I was doing my PhD, when I realized that, you know, I'd been going to academic conferences, computer science conferences in the UK. And I'd been told by my supervisor that you have to network at conferences because you've got to get to know people that are in your subject area. And it's not just what you know, it's who you know. And so I'd been trying to network at conferences and not having the best time. and not really thinking about the fact that it might be related to my gender and the fact that I was in a minority. It was probably about 10% women and 90% men, I'm guessing, at those conferences. And so I just thought I'm rubbish at networking was the main conclusion that I'd come to. And it wasn't until I went to a Women in Science conference in Brussels in 1998, which was all women. And I just had such a very different experience there. And it really helped me to realize that if you're in the majority, life is just easier. And I came back from that conference thinking, I've got to do something to bring together the women that work in tech in the UK. And so I set up this group, BCS Women. So there's about 1,000 members quite quickly. This is a committee meeting in about 2003, I think. So BCS Women set up in 1998 and still running now with over 1,000 members and doing really cool and exciting stuff. So that was when I first realized that I was a woman in tech and not just in tech myself. I've done various things over the last 25 years, so I won't tell you about all of them. But so one of the things I'm proud of is setting up a social enterprise in 2012 called Tech Mums. I realized that that mums are kind of like the key influencers in society and the family a lot of the time, and that mums were particularly, or could be particularly, underconfident when it comes to technology. And I also found out some research that showed that the main positive influencing factors on kids doing well at school in terms of their literacy and numeracy at age 11 were their mum's education and their home environment. So kind of various factors led me to think, well, why don't I set up an organization to teach tech to mums? And so that's how Tech Mums was born. And we've had various amounts of funding over the years. This photo here is us working at Facebook HQ in London, where we put together a kind of like Mums in Tech magazine program and live streamed it from Facebook a few years ago. And we've gone on to do lots of different things with Tech Mums, and it's been very successful. So I joined Durham 3.5 years ago now. I can't believe it's that long already. And kind of one of the main things that was in my remit was to do something about the number of women undergraduate students, the number of women academic staff as well in the department, and to make a big difference around gender and diversity. So actually the first thing that I did was to find universities in the States in particular that had done that already, to go and chat to them. So I went to a few universities in the States who'd managed to get their percentage of women staff and students up from something like maybe 4, 5, 6% up to 40, 50%, and had a chat with them about all the things that they've done. And then came back and discussed with various people in the department. So, you know, which of these could we do? And then kind of gradually we've been picking them off over the years and implementing them. And so one of the first things that we did was to set up kind of like formally the Durham University Women in Tech group. And so that was particularly for students and staff in the computer science department. Here's lots of our lovely students. And there was a group that was already going that was getting together and having board games and stuff, which was great. But we kind of then formalized it and created a committee. And that's still going strong. I'll show you some photos in a bit of some of the current Do It. It's called Durham University Women in Tech group and what they've been up to. So that's one of the first things that we did. We also started like really focusing on taking our women students, undergraduates in particular, around to conferences like Women in Tech conferences. We really wanted to give our students the experience of being in a majority women in tech environment, rather than, you know, at the time when I joined, we had about 15% women students, women undergraduates in computer science. So we wanted to give them that kind of like immersion experience, I guess, of being in a majority women in tech environment. And so here's us at one of the conference visits that we did a couple of years ago at the actual BCS Women Lovelace Undergraduate Colloquium, which is a great conference run for women undergraduate students every year in the UK and set up by one of the members of one of the committee members of BCS Women, the group that I set up. So, you know, I set up the group a long time ago, but so many people within the group have set up other amazing initiatives. And, you know, I really kind of resonated with what Rachel was saying just now about getting together and, you know, setting things up, talking to other people who care about the same things that you do, because, you know, I would have I had no idea of the sort of impact that I would have had, that I have had over the years. I had no clue that that would happen when I've started various things that I've done. But it is amazing when you set things up, when you meet people that care about the same things that you do, you talk to them, you start initiatives. You know, lots of people involved in that then go on to do their own thing as well. And so your impact kind of like really blossoms and flourishes over the years and turns into all sorts of things that you never would have dreamed happening. We've also taken our women students over to Women in Tech conferences in the States. So here I am with Alexandra on the left and some of our students, and one of our industry friends and mentors on Tech Up Women, Rachel, at the Anita Borg Grace Hopper conference in Orlando, Florida, where we had an amazing time and our students had, I think, a life-changing experience as well. And also at Carnegie Mellon, they run a conference every year which is focused on women computer science undergraduate students who want to go into research. And one of our students there, Millie, went on to, I think, do a PhD at Cambridge. So just great experiences for them, but also the students come back and then talk to other students, and it has an impact in that way. Another thing that we wanted to do was to really kind of showcase what we're doing to the whole community at Durham. So we started the Steve Shirley lectures. So this is Dame Stephanie Shirley, who's a major tech pioneer in the UK, completely ahead of her time, like 50, 60 years ahead of her time. She set up a software house back in the early 60s, I think, which employed only women to start with, until it got to about 300 employees, I think, all mainly programming at home, quite a lot of them mums. So the sort of organization that doesn't actually exist now even, she did that in the 1960s and grew that into a major company, which I think in the early 70s, the Sex Equality Act came into force in the UK. And so she wasn't allowed to hire any women anymore and had to start employing men. And quite shortly after that, she sold the company for several million, I think, and is now one of the UK's major philanthropists. So Dame Stephanie came up and gave a talk for us, a public lecture. We got support from Google as well, which was great. And now that we're kind of back in person again after the pandemic, we'll be reinstituting those lectures. And the idea is not just to do something for the university, but for the whole, the public at large in Durham and the surrounding area, to kind of promote what we're doing around women and technology. And another thing that the people that I spoke to in the States talked about in terms of helping women enjoy the undergraduate program and helping all students realize how technology can affect everything in the world. And there are so many different kind of diverse careers that you can go into from studying technology. So part of that was to start these sessions, which I ran in the first term each year, where we bring in speakers from industry to talk to our students about their careers, about what they love about technology. The students get to interact with them. And so we ran that in person before the pandemic. And in fact, during lockdown, when we weren't able to meet up in person, we ran the sessions again. But actually, in a way, it was better because I was able to find 2 or 3 people from all over the world to come and talk to our students, because we were doing it all online in Zoom. And so, you know, we would have, for example, a few Silicon Valley entrepreneurs on a panel chatting to our students in real time, which was great. Before the pandemic, we had people come up in person. So here we've got Nadia, who's a senior software engineer at Facebook, and Andy, who's a senior development manager at Twitter. But we had all sorts of people from all different types, all kind of areas of the sort of tech industry coming in to chat to our students. And so on to Tech Up. So when I joined, Alexandra and I put together a proposal to, what we really wanted to do was create a program to retrain women from underserved communities into tech careers. That's kind of where we started. And so we both know from having spoken to people in industry's crying out for women in tech, and also having spoken to lots of women want to work in technology but don't know how to get into technology. And we particularly wanted to focus on women of colour and women from underserved communities like parents, LGBTQI+, and women with disabilities. And so we came up with the idea of Tech Up Women, wrote the proposal, submitted it, and got it funded. Here's our first cohort of 100 women that went through the programme. We managed to get more than 50% women of colour, I think more than 40% parents, and more than 25% women with disabilities and LGBTQI+ women on the programme. So we were absolutely delighted with that. And I think for all of us, it was just a completely life-changing experience. I mean, you can see here from everyone's faces that everyone's having a good time, which I think is not what people always look like when they're doing a technology course. But so that's just been amazing, and I think life-changing for me, really, just in terms of the amazing women that we've met and the experiences that we've had, and just seeing them again kind of blossom and go out and really kind of just be very successful. You know, lots of the women that have been on the Tech Up program started winning awards. We've run successive programs. We've tried running with some men as well. But I think our heart is really with running women only programs, because I think it's being a woman in tech is a specific group of people that it's really great to work with. And yeah, it's just it's been life-changing for all of us, I think. And you know, so many of the women here have become friends with each other, but also friends with us. And of course, Shakira, our amazing person in this group, working with Alexandra. Oh, and at the front there, Shakira, I can see you. It's just been so wonderful. Just one of the best experiences of my life, anyway. And here's some more photos from Tech Up Women. I just love the energy, the enthusiasm, just the way that everyone has supported each other, both the people coming to speak, the mentors, and all of the students on the programme. It's just been such a delight all the way through. Another thing that we've done at Durham is to focus on open days, particularly now that we've, thank goodness, got open days. We're back in person again on open days. It was quite hard during the pandemic, to be honest, to run open days and really make any sort of a difference. But for our in-person open days, we always make sure that we've got at least 50% women staff and 50% women students who are showing everybody around and talking to everybody. So you can see a couple of photos here from our last open days last month. Which were really great. It was just so lovely to see students and their parents coming in person. And I really believe, and it was one of the key things that I heard from the universities in the States was, you know, like your sort of public face that you show to the world or you show on open days is how people see you. And so, for example, if you go to an open day, particularly maybe as a parent of a daughter who's interested in studying computer science, and nearly all the staff, or all the staff are men, and nearly all the students, or all the students are men as well, you're probably not going to be as confident that your daughter's going to have a great time at uni as if there's 50-50 women, staff and students. And so that's something that we've really taken up, and I think has made a big difference for us. So our Do It Women in Tech group, run by the students, have done some really cool stuff over the last couple of years. One of the things they did was they wanted to showcase the women staff in the department and the women committee. So you can see on the left some of our women staff, and on the right women students who are on the committee for Do It, who've been organising events and doing all sorts of interesting things, and running an Instagram account and making everything look lovely as well. And so it's just been great to see those women students just kind of like take off and do their own thing, and you know, create a society that works for them and does the things that they want to do, organising speakers and all different sorts of things. So after, I think, 2 years of our initiatives, maybe like a year to a year and a half, we can see the title here, Women in Computing, there's good news and bad. Well, the good news was us at Durham. It wasn't the bad news, in that we'd managed to get the number of women students up from 15% up to 30% in a year. And we were just absolutely delighted with that. And that's the intake just before the pandemic. Unfortunately, our figures have dropped back a bit during the pandemic. And I think open days could be a big factor in that, in terms of we just weren't able to to kind of showcase what we're doing around women in tech and have that kind of representation of women to the outside world. But we're hoping that the numbers are going to go back up to 30% or maybe more in October this year, fingers crossed. And another thing that we've done more around hiring staff is to, first of all, one of the things that we did was to ask everyone who applies for an academic job in the department to send in an EDI statement, so a statement of the things that they've done around EDI or what they care about around EDI. And we found that some people don't even bother to submit that at all, so they don't get shortlisted. So we found that actually that helps kind of self-select out people that don't care about EDI. So we make sure that everyone applying for academic jobs at Durham does actually care about EDI and can say what they've done and why they care about EDI. So I think that's made a difference. And our number of, our percentage of staff. So when I joined just after Alexandra, we had 11% women staff, and now we have 25%, which I think is amazing. And also in that time, we've doubled in size. So we've gone from about 25 staff to 50 staff, I think over that now. So to now have 25% women staff when we've doubled in size at the same time, I think is great. And so various things that we were doing around bringing in our new academic staff, I think have worked as well. Another thing that we've done to kind of, again, to kind of showcase to the public, which of course includes some students and parents, that we care about computer science, but also care about diversity and inclusion, is our podcast, 100 Moments That Rock Computer Science, which got to, I think, number 5 in the Apple Technology Podcast charts a while ago. And we've we haven't really made a point of it, but we've made sure that we have at least 50% women guests on the programme and at least 50% people of colour on the programme. And that's really to kind of, I think if you ask someone, the general public about, who works in technology, they'll practically always probably think of a white male. And we really wanted to kind of counter that by getting the stories out there of women that have done amazing things, and have them sharing their experience. And so that was series 1. And then series 2, we had some really amazing people, including Jimmy Wales, who started Wikipedia, Steve Shirley, again, Dame Stephanie Shirley, Tom Ilube, Jackie Wright, who's CIO, I think, of Microsoft. So like really senior, just amazing people on the podcast. So do give that a listen if you have the time. And so I think I'll stop there. I could talk about this all day, but that's all from me. And I'd love to hear any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sue. A round of applause for Sue.
Thank you.
Okay. Sue. A lot of these initiatives, but I'm also amazed to see how many there are since you joined us. Any questions? As a student. From students much? So it's put you on the spot.
I've got a question.
Yes, Rachel.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Brilliant pictures, really, really fantastic work that you've done, and from a personal perspective, really engaging and great to see the work you and Alexandra have done to take this forward over the last few years. Brings joy to my heart. I have got 2 questions. What was the most challenging part of that journey over the last 2 years? What was the one thing that you really had to work to overcome? And what was the outcome or impact that has brought you personally the most pleasure? What makes your heart sing when you think about it? So from there.
That was 3 questions. I can remember the last one, but I can't remember the first one now.
Challenges, I think, was the first one.
Yeah, so the biggest challenges, I think, the pandemic, we were really excited to be able to get we put lots of initiatives in place, and then we were so excited to get 30% women coming onto our first year of the program I think it's 2 years ago. I get very mixed up with time now because of lockdown and everything. So that was very depressing when those numbers went down again, not quite down to 15%, but I think it was like 19%. But, you know, it makes sense because we weren't able to do any of the things that we were doing, really. You know, we couldn't kind of like showcase loads of stuff on social media about us meeting up and going here and going there and open days with people coming in. So, yeah, so that was kind of challenging and depressing, I suppose. And so, yeah, I'm really hoping that we're kind of like ramping up now again, having just done open days again in person. Hopefully, if we don't kind of like get some good results this year in terms of the women undergraduates, we'll get them next year because we will have had a proper full year of doing stuff in person and kind of getting out and about again. Because I think that does make a big difference, kind of like showcasing, not just doing stuff, but showcasing what you're doing as well in a sort of like in a fun and sort of exciting way to get everyone engaged. Because, you know, we might think that sort of the media and social media don't make much difference, but actually make a massive difference, I think, particularly now. And, you know, like my youngest daughter's 18 now, going off to uni in September, and, you know, everything she knows about the university, you know, it is all through TikTok and all through social media practically. So I know that, you know, for that generation of students, that's critically important. So we do need to kind of showcase everything we're doing in the best way possible through social media. So I think that's been the biggest challenge and quite, you know, like very depressing. But in terms of like the positives, I mean, I think the whole group of Tech Up women that have gone through the program and come out the other side and just are doing such exciting things. And as time goes on, you know, there's just more and more and more of that. And, you know, women that we had people from all different sorts of backgrounds on the Tech Up Women program. So one was an A&E doctor in Newcastle, you know, one was an artist, I don't know, youth workers, lawyers, a few lawyers, I can't remember, Alexandra, just loads of different careers, journalism, people had come in from, but really wanted to work in tech and just didn't know how to get into it. And so to see them, you know, nearly all of them now working in tech, winning awards for what they're doing, and kind of taking the whole ethos of Tech Up Women, which is to encourage everyone to support each other and kind of get out there and really, you know, some of the stuff you were talking about, Rachel, getting together, supporting each other, you know, kind of like sharing positivity, that does make a massive, massive difference. And particularly over time, because then we see those women going out there and they're role models now, you know, in the area they're working in, they're winning awards. You can see them sharing their sort of their expertise that they've now got with other people coming in, you know, women coming into the tech industry, particularly women of colour. And it's just such a joy. And I know that's just going to carry on forever. You know, that's not going to stop. And, you know, that's one of the great things I think about working in this area is that you know, like Alexandra and I worked together, sweated hard to put the proposal together. Particularly Alexandra is great at writing proposals. I'm that's not my strength. I mean, I can do it, but Alexandra is amazing at it. And I'm more the hand wavy person. You know, so to get from that kind of through getting the funding, then putting the project together, Joanna, our project manager, is absolutely excellent. You know, the people that we've had on the team, Shakira's been part of the team as well now. And you know, to go from where we were kind of sweating away to try and make it happen through to now, that's only like 2.5, 3 years. But we can see that we've impacted hundreds and hundreds of people's lives. And now, in a way, we don't have to do anything because all those, I mean, we still are because we're trying, you know, getting more funding in and running more projects. But you can just see that massive ripple effect of, you know, what we started kind of like, you know, exploding out everywhere in a very positive and lovely way.
For me, it's an excellent learning experience to work alongside Sue, and to some extent it feels like we're just enablers. The talents were there; they were knowing all these things already. It's just making them believe in themselves and pointing them in the right way, and then they just went for it and surprised that some of them went so far that we had absolutely no idea where they were going to end up. So it's really wonderful to see, and it's really rewarding. It's almost like fast track because yes, we do have that to some extent as teachers with students, obviously, because it's years of study. But this was really fast track to seeing the effects right away. So it was really nice to see.
Yeah, that is true. Actually, the turnaround was so quick with some people. It just reminds me of one of our students who came into the first, so we had 4 residential meetings in the first program of Tech Up before the pandemic. And one student was, during the first residential weekend, just kind of like asked if she could chat to me, and was basically crying, saying she was very depressed, things weren't going well. She'd been turned down for various jobs. She had a daughter. She didn't know how she was going to look after her. You know, she was just, you know, like really, really in a very bad place. And, you know, but a big part of what we did was to get everyone connecting and supporting each other. And so I had a chat with her, and I'm sure other members of the team did. And, you know, a lot of what we were doing was building confidence without talking about building confidence, because like the worst thing you want to hear if you're not very confident is you're not confident enough. So you need to do it in a way that doesn't mention confidence, which I think is what we did. And then I think it was at the next residential in Liverpool, she was like so excited because she'd got a job. In fact, she'd had 2 job offers. And so, you know, a lot of it is just helping people to achieve their potential by helping them to believe in themselves. And I think, you know, particularly if you come from a minority group, it can just make such a massive difference. And so, yeah, there's just been so many wonderful moments really from the whole program. Alexandra and I will talk about it forever, so maybe ask us first.
Yeah, there are so many moments. I mean, even I remember when I was talking in front of them, and I remember when I teach in amphitheater, probably that says a lot about my teaching, but students tend to go as far away as possible to the front. And here all of a sudden they were all, you know, crowding in the front, and I thought, wow, this is much nicer. And you know, and I don't normally get hugs and kisses at the end of my course and things, so that was also really rewarding and really nice.
Yeah, it was obviously life-changing. Yeah, sorry, go on, Alexandra.
No, I wanted to see if there are any more questions to Sue, basically, and about all of these in computer science.
Thank you, Sue, for the wonderful talk. Did you have some initiatives for the high school as well?
Yeah, so I mean, so we have done some kind of interacting with high schools. I mean, some of us go out and give talks to high schools, particularly in the local area. So I've done a few of those, and other colleagues have done that too. And we also have initiatives where we invite high school and primary school. So from kind of about age, maybe about 9, I think is the youngest students we've had coming in, through to 18 to come in for various initiatives. So I don't know if you've heard of STEMETS, but that's an organisation in the UK which is specifically focused on upskilling girls in technology, helping to feel confident with technology. So they've come in and worked with us, and we had a day again before the pandemic where we had lots of I think like 10-year-old girls coming in who were taught how to create a web page in HTML, and then they had to like give a presentation and stuff like that. So we've done that kind of thing, but we're really keen on interacting with girls in the local community, and you know, we're kind of like setting up pathways, hopefully, so that we can get students from, particularly again from underserved backgrounds, coming in who are at various colleges and schools in the local area, to be able to come in and study computer science at Durham. So yeah, so you know, we like all of these things, it just, and like Rachel said again, it takes such a lot of time to do these things, you know, and you just kind of like you're, you know, step by step. But you know, when you have the successes, then it kind of like, you know, it gives you the energy, enthusiasm to carry on.
Question, yeah?
Yeah, hi, Sue.
Hi.
This is again, Elaine.
Hi, Elaine.
Oh, this one. Okay. Going in another direction. Oh, it's this hard. Okay. What are the major difficulties that you usually hear from the women, the students, and how do you help them face it? Did you understand?
Yeah, the major difficulties. Yeah, I think, yeah, difficulties. Yeah, no, so I think the major difficulties are time. Quite a lot of our students have been parents, so kind of finding the time for yourself, you know, when we've been running programs like Tech Up to study, because I think still in our society, you know, women are the main caregivers. And so, you know, there's always that, you know, how am I going to find the time to do this when I've got all these other responsibilities in the family, the extended family and the community, that kind of stuff. So I think time's one thing. I think guilt is another one. So I think, you know, as women, again, we're kind of brought up to look after everybody. And so if we do something for ourselves, we start feeling guilty about it, which is ridiculous. But we've all got it. I've got it, even though I've known for years that you know, that I shouldn't feel like that. You still can't help it. So I think that kind of guilt around you should be looking after everyone else and not putting yourself first. But I really believe that, you know, like in the example everyone gives, you know, in the plane, the oxygen mask, you put on yourself first, right? And so, you know, if you want to be the best mother, wife, person in the community, whatever, you have to look after yourself first, because if you don't look after yourself, you can't look after everybody else. You know, you need to keep yourself physically and mentally healthy. And if you never focus on yourself, you can't do that. So I think a lot of what we did in terms of like building confidence with Tech Up Women in particular was to just help everyone feel that we're all in it together. We all have, you know, we all have these pressures to, you know, to a lesser or greater extent, but we're all going to support each other to make sure that we all get through the program. We all kind of get to where we want to go. So I think, you know, I think particularly for anyone in a minority, particularly, you know, we were focused on women in particular. You know, there are certain things which are, that's just our society, and that's how we've kind of been brought up to behave. And so I think actually that's the biggest challenge, is to help everyone, particularly women, realize that they've got to put themselves first to help, even if they see it in the view that that's how they help everyone else around them, but they have to do that. So I said that was the major challenge, and that's something that we really focused on.
Thank you, wonderful words. I agree with you.
Thank you, good.
Really good.
Any other questions to Sue, online or here, face to face? No? Okay, so let's give her another round of applause.
Thank you very much. I look forward to being in Durham next week. So I'll see you next week. Sorry, I can't be there today.
Yeah. Sorry?
She's coming next week?
She's coming to, are you coming to the conference next week or?
I'm around from, when am I coming? I think, sorry, I can't remember which day. Thursday. I'll be around Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Next week.
So we should definitely talk to see how we can get you to meet each other. Excellent. So my plan for the general discussion was basically to explain a little bit more of what we're doing. So this, we're having two-day meetings. So this is one day. We'll also have another meeting tomorrow. Today we've heard from sort of the higher echelons to some extent, from the EDI head of the university and the EDI head of computer science. And tomorrow we'll hear more from students as well. So that's, although we also will hear some messages from Brazil, also from higher echelons. So it's going to be a mixture. The idea is, of course, you know, to help maybe the Brazilian counterparts, but maybe these discussions also help us as a community, I suppose. And to understand, you know, that because there's various challenges for the different stages, and we cannot just throw them all in one. I mean, there are some things which are common, and then we were discussing about women do this and women feel like that, and that sort of goes across. But then there are very, very specific things that are relevant to people depending on their own career stage. I wanted to just sort of open the discussion if there's anything that springs to mind, anything that you feel, for instance, would work in your in Brazil or not work in Brazil, or what you've heard so far.
Actually, we have some initiatives in Brazil, but I think they are mainly focused.
I don't know if they can hear you.
Your video.
It's terrible.
Your videos are on.
Freezing.
Video.
I don't know how to stop it really. I don't know if we can stop it. I don't think we can stop it. Sorry about it. We have an air conditioning, but it's freezing us here, I'm afraid. But okay, maybe if you can go closer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi again. So I think we have some initiatives in Brazil. We have a great one that is Meninas Digitais, that is a national initiative from Brazilian Computer Society. But the main
That's the one on your shirt, right?
actually,
Or not? Sorry.
this is join the Brazilian society, but we have one, a big initiative that is digital girls, that is Meninas Digitais. So, but the main initiatives is in high school or even the children to make them more interesting in computer and math. But I think we have to do more initiatives into university because we have a high dropouts. So I think we have to learn a little bit more about your Alexandra's and Sue initiatives to put in our university as well. I think we can start like this.
I know that one of your big problems was data gathering. So I don't know if you know Rachel, Sue, people online, but what I've heard, so we were at all these meetings with the British Council and they were telling us about both sides, Latinas Frontier and the Brazilian counterpart. And recently there's been, I think it was a new law or something in Brazil that is supposedly for ethical concerns and protection of privacy. But as a result, there's even more problematic any kind of data gathering related to gender or any other things like that. So all of a sudden, you seem to all have issues with even getting the information. I really like the idea of this anonymous kind of data gathering, as maybe that would be an answer to that kind of thing. But it really sounded I don't know what. We were talking that you have some older data which was gathered previously, but at the moment you can't get any more data.
I think the situation in the UK was quite similar maybe 10 years ago, in that all the funding went for kids and coding, girls and coding, and that was it really. And I think, one of the key messages I've been trying to get over for a long time is that we need lots more people working in tech. And if we just focus on kids at school, that's going to take 20 years until we get more people working in technology. And to me, and I'm sure you, that's completely obvious. But for some reason, like policymakers and a lot of decision makers at senior levels don't seem to see that at all, which I don't really understand, but there you go. So I think a lot of the time it's about showcasing examples. So, like with Tech Up Women, we're not only trying to affect the women that we've got going through the program, we're trying to show that you can get women who are, the women, there was no age limit on the women that we took on the program. So you can get women who've been in a career, in a different kind of career, who've had a career break, and they can work in tech with just a 6-month, mainly online program. So you need to kind of almost like pilot different initiatives and work with other people and support other people that are piloting different kinds of initiatives, kind of like all the way through the spectrum, to showcase that you can do these things and it does make a difference. Where it just takes time and it takes sort of sustained effort, and it takes everyone, again back to Rachel's point, working together to highlight what other people are doing, not just themselves. So kind of like networks of people that care about these sorts of things are really critical, and also trying to find people that will support you to run your initiative, and then you support them to run their initiative. And then gradually then you have the case studies which show, like we took these 50 women through a program and now they're working for this tech company, and the tech company is very pleased with them and they're winning awards. So it's the kind of thing that I was just talking about with Tech Up Women. You need various different types of programs, and then you need to really showcase the successes that you've had. Try to get stories in the media. So again, you know, like I'm always running to the BBC or, you know, someone to try and get stuff in the media to get to a wider audience, because I don't know if it's like for someone to change their mind about something, they have to hear it from 7 different places or 7 different times. So unfortunately, it's a lot of work. But the more people you get involved, the longer it goes on, you know, the more impact you have over time, really.
Specifically for the professors in the university, what support that you do, like tech months, what support the university did to help maintain the students and the professors and get increase in the career?
Yeah, so I mean, so that a lot of that is dependent on the university itself rather than what we can do in the department. I mean, it's partly down to the department, but a lot of it is the university infrastructure. And so, you know, like, so I'm co-chair of our EDI committee in the department. And one of the things that we try to do is to look at committees who are deciding on promotions and stuff like that to make sure that they're you know, gender balanced and have good representation of people from ethnic minorities, which, you know, it doesn't always work. We don't always get what we want. So a lot of it is basically kind of lobbying people around the university, trying to make the change happen. And so, you know, unfortunately in computer science last year, we weren't able to get that, despite me and the head of department and other people trying to get a gender balance on the committee. Higher up, we were told that we couldn't have it, so we didn't have it. So, you know, so you have you know, some, you win some, you lose some, but I think you just have to keep going with what you think is the right thing to do. And yeah, it's just, you just have to keep going in all different ways and supporting each other, talking to other people involved all the way through. And sometimes you know, like, it's not our decision, so we can't make that happen, but then other times it is our decision and we can. So, you know, you just do your best to try and make the changes that need to happen.
I think one of the challenges is that you have lots of initiatives and it's the continuity. I know with Checkup, for instance, it was really important to us, not only just to keep the likes of Joanna, which was wonderful, to keep her throughout till we get the new funding stream, but also the continuity of the concepts and so forth, and the legacy, because if you just do bitty pieces here and there, they somehow don't add up. And I think that's also important, and it's really hard. I mean, we had quite a struggle with Checkup doing that. I don't know how this is done, for instance, at the level of the university, Rachel, because I think there's a lot of initiatives. I don't think that's the problem, but, you know, bringing them all together and making them count and making the sum of the parts be larger than the individual parts themselves, that is the hard bit, and I think that's the important bit as well, right? So I don't know how you see it from the university at the university level.
Thanks, Alexandra. I think that I'm going to give you and Sue the credit that you deserve, because one thing that you really do, and which I think is that you sell. You really showcase what you do. When Sue said 7 different people to change your mind, I smiled, because managed to get this program really visible and on national newspapers, and that's really, really fantastic. There aren't very many research grants that actually make that international kind of mainstream press. Can I say that? There's lots of research grants that go, we do a lot about sniffer dogs, but, you know, sometimes I think not another sniffer dog program, but, and I've got 2 dogs, but it's about what we do showcase and how we get that visibility. There is great work that goes across this organization, but to be fair, a lot of the time we don't know what's going on because it's not always communicated in a way that is visible outside of a department. And what Sue and Alexandra have done is they've managed to make that visibility key. They've managed to make it core. They've managed to showcase it nationally and internationally. And that in itself is an achievement. So when I look at, and I do get lots of people coming, we do win quite a lot of funded grants, and I'm asked to contribute, and we've won some ourselves, and we've been really fortunate. but we haven't then gone out and showcased them. Normally it's the negatives that get published and never the positives. We find that everybody remembers a bad story, everybody talks about it, but not so many remember the good and want to kind of bring that to the fore. And it's really problematic. And with Durham being maybe what I would say a kind of prestigious university, there's a spotlight that kind of shines on it too often, when other colleagues in other universities have sometimes done a few more things that I would say, ooh, might have shone the spotlight there, but it kind of, the glow still comes back to Durham. So I do think that there is support from a central place, but there are many initiatives that go on. And sometimes there is that external funding and getting that on board. And a lot of the research grants don't come from the institution, they are funded elsewhere. And that is where we need to get that momentum, that kind of establishment. And what we've done at Durham, and I'm quite pleased to say that we've done, and we've been working within the engineering and physical sciences community, is to build that they understand some of the great work that we are doing, and they're very receptive to supporting Durham through grants. And I think if you can build that momentum and you can get that contact and say, well, actually this is what we do, and they start to see that, and our practice has been adopted elsewhere as really good practice. And I laugh because we're never in the news for that, we're always in the news for different things. But I just think it's great because in HE that's been established, and if you can do that in Brazil and get those other people and start saying this is what we're doing, people adopt that and they kind of bring that to the fore, you will get that funding directed to you because people will want to share and build on that practice.
Okay, so on this wonderful message, because I think it's great, we will ask all of you to tweet these wonderful photos that we're going to do now. So the plan is as follows. I'm going to try and do sort of, not exactly what Sue does. Sue is the maestro of selfies, so I'm not going to do that because I'm terrible at it. Well, I can try one, but anyway. I would ask all of you to, okay, put your camera on online, and so can we show them, all of them in so that can I? Them? Yeah, okay, so you can see everybody online as well.
Do you want me to screenshot it, Alexandra?
You can, well, the screenshot you will get only you guys and not us. That's the problem.
But if you all get together, I think
so we can, but I want to do also one from here. Okay.
We actually can.
Yeah, get one from there.
So if you sit down,
Definitely.
But yeah, in principle, yes. But okay, we can do one screenshot, I suppose. Okay. We can stay closer to the Zoom.
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay, please put your, or can you switch off if you're not, well, I don't know, because we don't have very many people with faces. It's very nice.
We need everyone to put their cameras on, if possible, just for a minute.
Okay, just for a minute, please. Yes. Elaine, if you're not actually on, can you switch it off? Then yeah, it's better. And Isabella, if you can switch on your camera on, that would be great. That one. Okay. It takes a bit of planning, I think. Come on. Yeah, sit down or something. Yeah.
Yes, I can.
Perfect.
Know myself.
Okay, there's a shadow there. What's the shadow? Okay. Smile. Take screenshots.
Okay, I got a few.
Yeah, let's do one from this other side. Okay, let's do one.
Yeah.
And come to the front of this other side. Yes.
Yeah, well, test your selfie skills, Alexandra.
Oh God, yes, I'm sure I'm going to. Terrible. Okay, here goes. Smile. Okay. Yes, I don't know how good they are, but okay, there we go. Thank you very much, and yes, I'll send them around, and please tweet them.
If you want to send me the photos, I'll edit them and then tweet them.
Okay,
and
I will.
Take it from there, maybe.
Now, and we'll wait you for you tomorrow again. We'll start at the same time at 1 o'clock, and we'll end more or less at the same time. And we're going to hear from about the two universities. Our representatives here will talk about their case and what's happening there. So if you're curious to know how things are in Brazil, that those questions will be answered. Okay. And thank you again very much to all, and have a beautiful end of day and enjoy whatever's left of the English sunshine. Or in Brazil, of course. In Brazil, I'm sure there's more.
Thank you very much.
Bye for now.
Thank you. Great to see everyone. Bye. Bye, Rachel.
So shall I send them to you, Sue, via WhatsApp? Is that good?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
I'll do that. Okay.
Cool. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
All right.
Okay, done.
Shall I end the meeting?
Yes, I think.